While modern horror is characterized by jump scares and special effects, horror and sci-fi films of the past were characterized by strange entities and quirky characters. The 1980s were especially a golden era for writers to incorporate absurd monsters into screenplays, and they have given us characters such as E.T., Xenomorphs, and The Thing, among others. Today, we shall be exploring these creatures and especially the top 12 alien characters from 80s cinema. So strap in and get ready as we embark on an adventure beyond space and time and greet some odd entities from the past. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. E.T. from E.T. the Extraterrestrial, 1982. To kick things off, we have an adorable little alien known as E.T. or Extralien Terry. He was quite an intelligent little alien who had been mistakenly left behind on Earth by his botanist colleagues. Now that he had been abandoned on an unknown planet, E.T. sought shelter with a young boy named Elliot, who helped him adapt to human life. E.T. did not take too long to pick up on human behavior and adapt to an entirely different lifestyle, and he would eat fruits and vegetables, indulge in hobbies such as reading comic strips, and even develop a taste for beer. He did not pose any danger to humanity, and he was just an odd little alien with a stout body, huge blue eyes, and bodily features inspired by various animals. For instance, he had the nose and mouth of an orangutan, the neck of a snake, and the fingers of a toad. Over the course of his story arc, E.T. read a comic strip about an abandoned alien and how it returned to its home planet with the help of a communicator, which also inspired him to make a makeshift communicator and call for help. The Thing from The Thing, 1982. Introduced as a hostile, hive-minded organism, The Thing was the titular terror of this 1982 sci-fi film. It had the ability to assimilate other life forms, and it managed to assimilate numerous species throughout its life. While several beings have fallen victim to the Thing's assimilation, very little is known about this entity's origins, or even its original form. Over the years, The Thing had drastically changed its appearance to integrate the features of about 1,000 species before it finally arrived on Earth. It can be said that every part of its body was a different creature, and its shape-shifting nature granted it a lot of flexibility. This also enabled the Thing to move in disguise and get in close proximity to its victims, after which it would kill them and take over their bodies. After assimilating an organism, the Thing could replicate all their memories, features, and manners, and it typically targeted intelligent species, as this helped it further enhance its capabilities. As far as alien entities are considered, the Thing might be one of the most dangerous ones, as it lurked around and ambushed its victims before they even had a chance to process the fact that their bodies were being assimilated into a larger hive-minded multi-organism.
The Supreme Commander of the Visitors, or John as he is asked we call him, John is shaking...
The Visitors from V, 1983. Featured in the 1983 V series, the Visitors were an aggressive race of reptile aliens known for disguising themselves as attractive humans. They originated on the planet near the star Sirius, which was situated somewhere near the Canis Major constellation. Over the years, their planet had lost many of its resources due to its environmental issues, and they then decided to generate a fleet of motherships to travel the universe and look for more resources. In their conquest, they stumbled across Earth and devised an elaborate plan to disguise themselves as humans with the help of latex skin. Their final goal was world dominance, and they soon adopted human identities and learned human languages before setting up a base and harvesting water to power their technology. They were known for having advanced technological gadgets and an arsenal of laser weapons and truth serums to aid them in their world domination plans. While they traveled to Earth as the Visitors, they did not hesitate to make themselves at home and drafted a plan to deplete Earth's resources for their benefit over the course of an entire generation. Even though they were a huge threat to humanity, there were some ways to identify them and defeat them, as they had a notably deeper voice and a thin latex skin that could be easily torn apart during a fight. Mac from Mac and Me, 1988. Released in 1988, Mac and Me was a 1988 sci-fi film that focused on the life of Mac, a mysterious alien creature who had managed to escape from the clutches of NASA. After somehow freeing itself from the NASA research agents, Mac hid himself in a minivan that belonged to Janet Cruz, a single mother who raised two sons, Eric and Michael. As the plot moves further, Eric comes face to face with Mac within his house, and his mother soon blames him and his brother for all the chaos they have caused by welcoming an alien alien into their household. However, Mac turns out to be a pretty useful presence, and he even saves Eric's life when he stumbles out of his wheelchair and ends up tumbling down a hill and right into a lake. After realizing Mac's intentions, Eric expresses his gratitude for saving his life and even helps keep him safe while the FBI agents tail them and try to capture him back. Mac may be an oddity in the form of an alien, but he certainly had a heart of gold, and his intentions were nothing but pure. While he tried to keep himself safe until he could once again be reunited with his family, he found another family with Eric, and McAdme is certainly a heartwarming tale of friendship between an alien entity and a human, rather than a mortifying tale of an alien species taking over planet Earth. Xenomorph Queen from Aliens, 1986. While we have heard a lot about the xenomorphs that latch on to human hosts and prey on their victims so that they can breed their younger ones in their bodies, the Xenomorph Queen might just be the most iconic member of their kind. Typically staying deep within the hive, the queen acts as a matriarch to the xenomorphs, and her primary duty is to hatch eggs that could then be used to expand the hive. She was inarguably the most essential member of the species, as their survival would be impossible if the queen did not lay any eggs that could be further developed in host bodies. Owing to her special status, the queen had a bunch of drones of soldiers around her at all times, and they would protect her from any incoming threats. The queen was also quite intelligent and could strike deals with humans or even communicate and bargain with them in the face of crises. Over the years, several xenomorphs had been bestowed with the position of queen, and while they all varied in appearance and size, they did have some common characteristics. For instance, all the queens were much taller than regular xenomorphs, and they had high hill-like protrusions from their feet and two pairs of arms that differed in size. She would also typically stay attached to a gigantic ovipositor on her lower torso, which would help her produce more eggs. In some scenarios, she had to undergo a painful process to detach herself from it if she had to escape from any imminent threats. All things considered, the Xenomorph Queen is quite an iconic alien entity, as she has single-handedly bore the burden of ensuring that their species don't go extinct. Gizmo and the Gremlins from Gremlins, 1984. While we just had a look at a terrifying matriarch, this next character is one of the cutest, most adorable alien entities to appear in the history of cinema. First introduced in the Gremlins movie in 1984, Gizmo was one of the most famous mogwais in this universe, and he had managed to become a huge part of the Peltzer family. He was especially friends with Billy Peltzer, and he would often aid him in his attempts to capture and defeat the Gremlins whenever they managed to break free. He was the main protagonist, and he successfully saved New York City from all incoming Gremlin threats. While Gizmo was a cheerful protagonist, the Gremlins were the primary villains of this film, and they were even known as the corrupted Mogwai. They were created by the sibling gods of creation, Nua and Fuxi, who had cursed the Mogwai to live a life of utter chaos and terror in case anyone ever disobeyed the rules for their care. These rules included ideas such as not feeding them after a point in the night, and it did not take long for humans to break these rules and trigger these Mogwais to turn into their corrupt gremlin form. In this form, the Gremlins wreaked havoc all over New York City, among other places, and the 1984 film especially dealt with these odd little entities as Gizmo strived to eliminate their nuisance. They were tiny creatures about 1 meter tall, with scaly reptilian skin and giant, bat-like ears that made it easy to identify them. While they were terrorizing violent entities, Gremlins were vulnerable to bright lights, among other things, and there were many ways to defeat them.
On my planet, we never say die, we say kill!
Now, wait a minute. Listen to me, small visitor.
Howard the Duck from Howard the Duck, 1986. Portrayed by Ed Gale, Howard the Duck is a fictional character who first appeared in a comic book published by Marvel Comics and later made his way to the big screen. As his name suggests, he was a duck, and a very strange one at that. He was known to be an ill-tempered anthropomorphic entity from outer space who found himself on Earth surrounded by humans, and his comic taglines often said that he was trapped in a world he never made. His adventures, or rather misadventures on Earth, gained a lot of attention, and he often found himself facing bizarre enemies such as the Demon Lord Thog, the Band of the Bland, and even Spider-Man. While he did not have any superpowers, Howard was skilled in a martial art form known as Quack Fu, and he once even wielded a suit of armor known as the Iron Duck. Typically, Howard appeared as a 3-foot-tall duck who donned a shirt and a tie, and he was quite a dignified young creature who was seen smoking a cigar in almost all his appearances. He was also a channel for Marvel to incorporate some satirical writing into their comics, and Howard's irritable and cynical character proved to be the perfect candidate for it.
Inside you.
The Space Lugs from Night of the Creeps, 1986. Created by Fred Decker, Night of the Creeps was a 1986 sci-fi horror film filled with all sorts of strange creatures. Among others, the film's main antagonists were a bunch of strange slugs known as alien slug creeps. When two fraternity pledges stumbled across a frozen body and then tried to use it for a prank, they accidentally ended up unleashing these slug creeps, which proved to be lethal to humans. They had the ability to latch onto a host and then control their brain and motor functioning, and they were even capable of reanimating corpses and using them for their own benefit. While they were odd entities, these space slugs were also quite lethal. Once they were unleashed, it was nearly impossible to control them as they multiplied in large numbers and dominated the entire area in no time. Krites from Critters, 1986. Also known as the Critters, the Krites were the titular antagonists of this film series, and about 8 to 10 of them were first introduced in the 1986 film. They appeared as tiny aliens with large, rotund bodies and black fur, and their general physiology was much like that of a hedgehog or a porcupine. They were also characterized by large mouths and several rows of sharp teeth that they would sink into their prey's body to kill them. In some cases, they could use their poison quills or come together to form a giant critter ball that could roll around and target many victims at once. While Krites communicated with very few words, they were extremely intelligent beings who worked harmoniously to figure out the best strategies to lure prey or defend themselves. They were also known to have a giant carnivorous appetite, and while they mostly had a mischievous demeanor, they did not fool around when it came to securing food. The Blob from The Blob, 1988. Appearing as a pink, gelatinous organism, the Blob was the titular antagonist of this 1988 horror film, which was inspired by another film from about 3 decades ago. The Blob was essentially the creation of Dr. Christopher Meadows, who conducted a military experiment with bacteria and exposed it to the space atmosphere to trigger a mutation due to outer space radiation. Soon enough, the Blob crashed on Earth in a meteorite, and it was discovered by an elderly transient known as the Can Man. The Can Man freed the Blob from a tiny crack in the meteorite, and this odd entity was soon unleashed upon Earth. It soon went on a rampage to eat every single living being in its path, and it continued to grow bigger by devouring human and animal flesh alike. The Blob had the ability to dissolve flesh upon contact, and it also had tentacles that sprouted from its mass whenever it needed to grab a victim from far away. While the 1958 Blob movie portrayed this character as a mindless threat, this particular version of the Blob displayed intelligence and hunted its prey strategically instead of just devouring anyone who had the misfortune of stumbling across its path. In addition to being a skilled hunter, the Blob was quite sadistic, and it would often take some time to torture its victims slowly while they shivered in fear. The Space Herpes from Ice Pirates, 1984. Appearing in the form of tiny reptilian creatures, the Space Herpes were one of the minor characters of the 1984 film Ice Pirates. They had several protrusions around their heads that appeared in the form of a crown, and facial features such as eyes, noses, and mouths that appeared somewhat slimy. They had grotesque, giant heads, and while they shared facial features with humans, they had gigantic eyes, elongated nostrils, and hollow mouths that were nothing like those of humans. While they did not play a huge role, the Space Herpes had managed to contaminate several spaceships, and they moved around elusively and stirred up a whole lot of trouble. The Killer Clowns from The Killer Clowns from Outer Space, 1988. Appearing as the titular protagonists of the 1988 sci-fi horror comedy, the Killer Clowns were murderous alien entities who had the appearance of circus clowns. These clowns crashed on Earth in a glowy circus tent, and they were discovered by a young couple trying to have a moment at a local makeout point in California. While clowns typically seemed like harmless creatures, they turned out to be sadistic alien forms who went on a rampage and killed several beings around town. Some of the clowns were named Jumbo, Fatso, Shorty, Rudy, and Spiky, and their names described their appearances to some extent. For instance, Fatso was a stout, fat clown who once killed a woman after giving her a Valentine's Day card, while Shorty was a short clown who killed a biker by punching his head off. Over the course of the film, Killer Clowns stirred up a whole lot of trouble in California, and these strange entities have even inspired several clown horror films. Marvelous verdict. And well, that was it. From the terrorizing xenomorphs to Gizmo and the Gremlins. We hope this video made for a fun watch as we explored these gems from 80s cinema. While all these aliens have their own peculiarities, some are more loved than others. Do let us know your favorite ones in the comments. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.